All right, this is Mark Adams, and I'm here with my tag team partner for today, a very sharply dressed Andrew Juke. And we are the Extra Point Podcast with 4Quartersonline.com. A brand new high school football season is almost upon us, and we are a week out from preseason games abounding in the North Florida area, from the Panhandle down to Panama City Beach, across the Big Bend, and in the Tallahassee area. Juke, it's an exciting time right now. I can definitely feel it in the air.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. It's kind of that waiting time, right? So we see the guys starting to get back into camps, and then you get the shells, and then you get kind of the full pads and the full contact. And then, now that we're on the brink of that referee scrimmage preseason week, it's really starting to kick into high gear, and everybody's getting ready to go back to school. And that means football season going to get rocking and rolling as well, Mark. And we got a really fun spread out here in our area, as always. Excited to
Yep.
get into it.
Oh yeah, it's a circle of life. Everything that is boring in the summertime, you get to have your fun. Now you got to go back to school. Everybody's heading back. My kids are starting back to school, and now you have to have some football in order to be able to let off some steam, because it's a lot of work going in, and you have to have that balance to life. So I'm definitely excited for it. Florida State and FAMU going to be kicking off their seasons as well. FSU going across the Atlantic to take on Georgia Tech, a team that's only 250 miles away from them, but they're going to be playing them in Ireland, so that's going to be cool to watch. Definitely looking forward to being able to see what the environment is like. I know the FSU faithful will be trolling the heck out of the ESPN faithful. I just hope Kurt Herbstreit has his armor and thick skin on, because it's going to be rough.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He's going to have to stay safe. Maybe have a shield, kind of a plastic dome or something.
Yeah.
Watch for some debris coming in the back of the head.
Yeah, the Home Depot crew who sets up college game day, they're going to have to put a lot of space. I hope security's extra tight. He's going to be hearing all of the feedback. And then FAMU, we're going to get a first look at the James Colsey edition of the FAMU Rattlers, and looking forward to seeing how that team shapes up. They look very talented, got a lot of transfers in addition to some homegrown guys that are looking to run it back. And so far, we heard from the man himself, Kelvin Dean, like there's no loss on the talent side. They're looking to be being back in position for another SWAC title and another HBCU championship. So they'll be very exciting to watch them take on Norfolk State in Atlanta. I'm going to try and see if I can catch that one with my family. So that's going to be a great environment. But yeah, it's time to jump into some high school stuff, man. We're really just it's been a great summer. It's been a nice time to just catch up with all the teams at media days in Tallahassee and in Panama City. Shout out to those who could make the trip. But I think that the thing that always excites me about this time is there's a bunch of speculation. Who's going to be able to hold up the trophy? Who's got a shot at making a title run? Who's going to make a deep run in the playoffs? Who's going to turn some heads? So this for me is very good. But right now we've got preseason in about a week or so, and so there's some preseason matchups that really kind of intrigued me. And so I think we got a little short list here. We can kind of run through. Childs taking on JP2. That's going to be very intriguing. I would watch that one in the regular season, but this one just kind of has me kind of intrigued. Childs really turned some heads last year, and JP2 also has a lot of talent. I think this one will be a litmus test for these teams going into the season.
Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah, of course, JP2 coming off the regional final. Childs experience coming back at the quarterback position. And, they got the old wide receiver up there. So, they're going to try to sling it a little bit. They're from the head coaching standpoint up at Childs. So they're looking to be fun as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we have FAMU DRS. And this is one of those where it almost feels like FAMU DRS didn't have they did not have the same numbers or depth or really the same number of games scheduled as they have this season. They're back full strength, and they've got a lot of depth. And then now we're looking at Jefferson County, who also played a shortened schedule last season. They're under new leadership as well. So this interests me because I'm looking forward to seeing two former juggernauts get back to where they belong, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not too long ago either. You look back kind of the late 2000s, 2010s, some like really powerful area programs that were kind of like carrying the torch for our region, right? And
Hmm.
so really cool to see them. And that's the beauty of preseason. New head coaches get the sneak peek. We won't get the seniors all the way through, right? We won't get kind of that full game feel.
Hmm.
But just to get a little glimpse of what the team could look like under the new regime is going to be fun.
Yeah, football is always better when these two teams are at their full strength. So this will be a nice matchup and a nice tune-up for them. Then we got Bay taking on Niceville. So we got all this talent down at Bay. It'd be nice to see it put on display for the first time this season. I'm really looking forward to it. Niceville, man, such a great environment to play high school football. And one of the things about the Eagles is that they are growing their own crop of talent. That they graduated quite a few guys, but for Niceville, it's always reload, rinse, wash, repeat for them. So this is an interesting matchup for me, just to be able to look at that talent on display on the field on for that particular preseason game.
Yeah, Bay's getting a lot of hype. They're going to be a really fun addition to the Wild Wild West out there in the Panhandle, Mark, as they always are. Reclassification, it's going to be a dogfight out there to see who kind of emerges in each of those classifications.
Right. Then I've got Madison County versus Wakulla. It's Madison versus Wakulla. You got to watch. End of story.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody's got something to prove. Wakulla, a lot of people were sleeping on them because of the youth. Madison County, hey, can they get back to the state championship? Cool storylines here as they get their seasons going.
Yeah, absolutely. Godby versus Orlando Christian Prep. I always like it when the local teams try to take on teams from outside of the area in the preseason. It always makes for a great matchup. For the most part, Godby's been a little bit embattled over the past several seasons. Shout out to Coach Holston. He looks like he has a good nucleus of returning starters that really are looking to get back to what is Cougar football. So I'm interested in seeing how they look in that kind of preseason tune-up. And then too, there's definitely a lot of key elements to them. They've got great quarterback play. They've got some playmakers on the edge that can really make some noise. And looking at their defense, Coach Holston, I know that's going to be one of his specialties. Seeing what they can dial up in the preseason and how they look might set the tone for the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Holston taking over has been there, so a steadying force in kind of that Godby program, which has been kind of fluctuating, right? And then also Perryman coming back into the mix this year for his senior season at Godby. And then you talk about some other players. Lazarus Chambers is going to be fun to watch. He had some moments last year for a little bit of breakout, but they're going to be fun. And we may be talking about them a little later in the show, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Mosley taking on South Walton. That's going to be an interesting matchup. I definitely like these two teams. I definitely like what South Walton was able to do last year. They graduated quite a few guys, and they've got some younger guys that are looking to step up. Same with Mosley. They've got a crop of new talent. And this is just one where it's just like you want to see if two teams that established themselves last year can keep the momentum going. So this is just one that just stuck out to me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, of course, high octane offense coming back from Mosley. And like you said, South Walton looked to replicate what they did last year. Wild West, Mark. It's going to be a showdown out there.
Absolutely. Then we got Mariana Sneeze. This is just going to be the battle of who has the most experienced and talented seniors. Both teams are bringing back quite a few seniors on either side, especially Mariana. We were just talking. Mariana, I think, has close to 18 or 20 seniors coming back. So this will be a great tune-up for them. And then rounding out things is, of course, a classic one, Rickertson Leon. This one just kind of sets the tone. You always want to get a nice, good tune-up with your crosstown rival. So I'm looking forward to these preseason games. There's a lot of storylines mixed in, but this one really has, I think these particular games that we called out really have some intrigue to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Should be fun. Obviously, Leon and Rickards, you hear some other programs being talked about in the area. Some people sleeping on them as well. So we'll see early glimpse of them coming out of that interesting preseason matchup there, or excuse me, the spring game that they had, a couple months ago.
So yeah, there's there's every time we get to this point, we're still speculating that we really don't know. And I'm gonna be the first to say that a lot of times I'm more enjoying the season when I get surprised as opposed to trying to make my prediction. So it's just one of those things about the mystique of high school football. you really can make all the estimations that you want, but once the teams take the field on Friday night and the ball gets spotted, anything is up for grabs. But we've got some schedule previews here. Juke, man, fantastic job on breaking all of that down. That's a lot of content to go through, as we'll have plenty to talk about as we get towards the regular season starting. But just some interesting schedules that really stuck out to me. As far as like who I think has the toughest, I look at Gaston County and man, half of the schedule is Georgia teams, and not just Georgia teams, but Georgia playoff teams at that. Their schedule really sticks out to me as one of the toughest in the area, but they've got the talent, in my opinion, and I think they probably will have. They will probably be one of the most battle-tested teams come playoff time if they can survive the gauntlet and stay healthy.
Yeah, not just tough teams, Mark. Tough teams on the road up there
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
A lot of road games.
Jupe, anybody stand out to you as far as like having a tough schedule?
Well, I like to see kind of those inconsistencies or those change-ups, right? Because you try to get a routine throughout the season and you try to have a formula to set you up for success, right? And so one of the things that always sticks out to me is we saw teams previously, some teams it affects, some teams not, but we see Mosley and John Paul II both with 3 or more Thursday games.
Yeah.
Throwing off the whole week of the schedule. And so I think that in and of itself, from a scheduling standpoint, logistics, blah, 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 especially playing a lot of games on the road is going to be difficult for those two squads.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like when it offsets your week so much because you don't practice on Sunday. So you're really on a shortened week for 3 or more times during the season. It can really take an effect on you, especially when you have a tough opponent. And Thursday nights, there's something weird about Thursday night football that can really offset, your rhythm. It's just one of those things where like you don't want to get snake bit in the middle of the season.
Yeah, especially for people who are usually pulling a big crowd on those Friday nights, it's really tough to kind of get that sustained for a Thursday night game. So potentially for the road team, it could be a little bit of a dangerous kind of trap game if they're coming in there a little more of a quiet atmosphere than what the home squad is used to, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Some other teams that really stuck out to me as having a tough schedule. Bay has looks like a very formidable schedule. They are known for, and really shout out to Coach Brown. He's not going to shy away from anybody. They play up. Childs definitely has a bit of a tougher schedule. Teams that I expected them to have a tough schedule: Madison County and Lincoln. John Paul II definitely stands out. Florida High has got one that really stands out to me as well. And then another interesting kind of thing, that happens just because you're trying to upgrade your program. South Walton is going to be playing 7+ games on the road this year as their stadium and new facilities getting built. So I know they're looking forward to their new digs, but man, you got to survive playing on the road and away from the friendly confines for a little while until you get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, you talk about Gaston, right? Being battle tested. If you want to win in the playoffs, more than likely you're going to have to do it away from home. So prepare yourself early. Hope for success down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know they'll probably have to order another extra set of white jerseys and white uniforms as they'll be wearing those out this season. So, looking at, some of the breakout teams and things that, you always can speculate, but given the talent level with most teams, I think that there's a lot of teams that we might be expecting some big seasons from. And then, there are going to be some head turners this year, some sleeper teams that are going to be waking up, getting back to basics. Jupe, anybody stand out to you this year that might be having a breakout year?
Big things, breakout. We talked about it a little bit before, Mark, when you brought it up, especially for schools that are locked in and have kind of a dominant factor on their area, right? Smaller schools like Mariana, we're looking at 18, potentially into the 20s on seniors. So I love the experience there. I remember seeing them over at Gadsden a couple years ago. They were young, but you saw some flashes. Now they've had 2 additional years in the system together to harness that. And so I think Mariana could be dangerous coming through here in kind of that, mid-Panhandle situation.
Yeah, definitely. Classifications, we talked about it, now it might actually be relevant to a certain degree because you bring that kind of depth in, depending on where you how your playoff scenario could shape up, that could determine a lot as far as how far you could go in the postseason, because you've got the experience to go along with it. So a lot of these kids are battle tested. I'm definitely looking for big things for Mariana too. They're one of those teams in the Panhandle, I feel like, that has been dormant for a little bit, but it's consistently produced. And I think they're just waiting on a couple of dominoes to fall into place for them to have a really good breakout year. We've got some usual suspects. I expect big things from Lincoln and Gadsden County, especially with the talent on both of those squads. Sneed's out in the Panhandle too, expecting big things from them. Also Florida High, but some what I feel like is a team that might really hit their stride this year as the Charles Timberwolves. I think that they have shown that they can really get the job done in the trenches. I think they proved not only to themselves, but proved to a lot of other teams from around the area that they're not. No, this is not the Charles that you might have heard about. This is Charles under Bill Reagan's, and we're gonna play football the way it's supposed to be played, and we're gonna turn some heads and shock some people. And I think that the Timberwolves are on the cusp of having a really good breakout year.
Yeah, for sure, Mark, and maybe trying to get that breakthrough of that playoff thing. They have been absolutely brutal as far as those playoff concerns. The rankings, I know they're changing all the time, and it's changing again this year, Mark. But so often being on the outside looking in, really hoping that they can make the breakthrough. But yeah, echo that sentiment. Returning man in the quarterback position always helps, and so I'm looking for increase from Charles as well. Should be fun.
Yeah, I got some teams I think that might surprise you too. I think despite how young they are, I think the Wakulla War Eagles definitely are business as usual down in Crawfordville. Despite the youth, I think these kids have grown up around each other. As Coach Cleese has often mentioned, they know the system well. And I think they're just looking for opportunities. Godby is another one. And I'm also and I think I didn't write their names down, but I definitely think that Franklin County and Lafayette definitely might be some of the teams that kind of surprise you, even though they graduated quite a bit. But the team I think that I'm really interested to see, just more so because of the depth, is FAMU High. When you've got numbers like that, when you're going from maybe 21 or 22 kids and you've got 40 plus, I think that definitely speaks a lot to the interest level and the ability to turn the program around. So I think that FAMU High, I think they might surprise some people. I think they might steal a couple of wins just with the numbers that they have. And if their schedule is favorable enough, anything can happen.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously you get the jolt of energy with the new head coaching staff. So we'll see how Coach Wise and the gang have going on. But yeah, that's always been the thing for DRS looking back the last 10 years. When they were up, they could hang with basically anybody for like 3 quarters, but then just the numbers they get to you. Mm-hmm. And so seeing the increase in numbers, having those specializations is going to be huge for them. So really exciting. I'm also liking Franklin County. Of course, people are going to sleep on them being winless last year. I think it's year 2 for Coach Cooper, hearing really good things out there. And as the system gets rolling, I agree with you. Those Beach Boys over there should be on the up and up. Also throwing a couple other ones into the mix. Leon, which I think with McGriff leaving, kind of lends itself to a potential drop-off with the head coaching change, but a lot of the offensive, defensive pieces going back, hoping they can continue the momentum. And then I also want to slide in Rickards, Mark, because nobody's talking about Rickards, and looking back over
the track nobody's record, talking, but I think that's the way Coach Lewis likes it.
Exactly. And you think about it, the 2019 team was so hype, right? And then you kind of go into it and nobody was talking about them in 2020, but that's when they did their biggest damage, ended up getting to the state championship. Super cool. They've got, when you talk about the trenches, they've got, I think, 6 returners coming back, including the big Wiggins, who's headed for Florida. Mm-hmm. And then they've also got some other defensive pieces, which I'm really liking. And, of course, quarterback coming back as well. So line and exciting playmakers. We know those skill positions are going to be fast and fun. But if they can get it solid on the defensive line, I think, we're going to be a little different than that 3-7 or that 2-8 that people are expecting from last year.
Yeah, definitely. There are so many teams across the area that I think could get the job done this year. Mosley is one. Bluntstown with Coach Wagner coming in. And he brings in such a unique energy. He's got just talking to the guy, he's got his team amped up and ready already. And he's only been in town for a few months thus far, but he's already got his program kind of looking like, traditional Bluntstown football. So he's put his own spin on it. McClay is another team I think that could definitely get the job done going down the stretch, and definitely don't want to sleep on NFC either. So there's so many teams that we can kind of run through, but this is, I think, as far as breakout teams, I think there's a lot of sleeper teams that haven't experienced that playoff run or have been close, and this might be the year for them. So it gives you enough to just kind of watch week in and week out, and definitely want to stay tuned to each one of those programs that we mentioned.
Absolutely. See who's full of some more prizes, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Jupe, you watching the Olympics?
I dabble a little bit, pop in for a couple, the basketball, the gymnastics, the track, swimming.
If you haven't seen it, I encourage everybody to watch the synchronized swimming. The Michael Jackson thing was very, I don't even know how they do that and they don't drown. I just honestly, it's one of those things. I appreciate everybody's level of talent, but that is a whole other level.
Let's go.
All right, we'll catch everybody next week for another edition of the Extra Point.